From Scorpion to Eagle to Phoenix, this is Suit and Boot, standing up in truth, transformation, and breaking out of trauma. Today, we're talking about a topic that shapes every relationship we enter, even when we do not realize it. The mother and the father wound, and how they show up inside us, how they shape us, and how the partners we choose. And we're here again. Back with me is our favorite voice of Suit and Booth. It's Jianny Adamo, the licensed mental health counselor. And she's here again with us. Thank you again, Jianny, for joining us again. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Tashai. Thank you for having me again. I love being here as your resident therapist.
Absolutely a resident. Thank you. Thank you.
And today's topic is going to be so on point for just about everybody.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so intriguing because I thought about this topic because the last time before we were here, we touched briefly on my ex's gaping mother wound as I described it, right? And so I thought about how that affects us and how we interact and everything. So I thought it would be a great way to touch upon how we deal with that, whether we have one or not. And just jump right into it. Let's tell us, what is the mother wound, for example?
Okay. So I think today's conversation is going to be both about the mother and the father wounds, because we have a mother and a father, whether or not we lived with them. We have half of their DNA. We have half of moms and half of dads.
Absolutely.
That's the way it goes. So we will inherit certain patterns, legacies, certain curses, certain things through each of the parents. And on top of that, we each have a feminine and a masculine side. So today's conversation is going to hopefully allow us to be more like holistic. So even though we'll be talking about the mother wound, this is the feminine energy. When we talk about the father wound, this is our masculine energy, so that we can start synthesizing this conversation and not feel like, oh my God, we're only like looking at this from one perspective. So we're going to hopefully synthesize. Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's just break it down.
Yeah.
Right?
So when we talk about the mother wound, we're going to then attribute certain traits or characteristics to the mother wound. This is going to encompass our attachment and emotional safety. And when we talk about the attachment and emotional safety, we're talking about love. Love.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the objective word here? Love, love, love.
Yes.
But before we get into, the effects of it, can you just let everyone know what we're talking about, the mother wound? What is the mother wound?
Okay, so as a parent, the good news is we do not need to be perfect in order to
That's great to hear,
yes,
right?
We don't need to be perfect parents in order to have healthy children that become healthy adults. So as we speak here also about mother wounds and father wounds, I don't want anyone to feel like guilty or ashamed because they weren't a perfect parent. So we want to remove that off the table right off the bat. But a mother wound would be where the child has perceived or has experienced some form of abandonment, some form of inconsistency, some form of abusive behavior that now has allowed that child to get stuck in a particular part of their life. And like I mentioned before, the mother usually represents love. What we break that down as love is your ability to attach to others, your ability to have emotional safety. There's a couple more things that that are attributed to the mother wound and coming to the feminine side. And that's your self-worth and your identity, as well as your boundaries and enmeshment. Will kind of attribute those areas to the mother wound. And then on the flip side would be the father wounds. And that would be your safety, your ability to trust, protection. So that's like one category that we're going to attribute to the masculine side, the father side. Another aspect would be your ability to achieve, to be confident, and your capacity. So when we look at the father wounds, we're going to look at that. And we're also going to look at your relationship to the masculine energy, because we know, and it doesn't happen in every family, but in some families, the masculine energy, the dad, can be quite irritable and angry in the way he expresses his emotions, or he's emotionally suppressed many times, right? But therefore, the only thing that comes out is the anger and irritability. So then if we are attributing like that whole fear of conflict, that's coming out of the father wound, and many times where we're afraid that it's always going to be an explosion.
Right.
So we avoid conflict.
We kind of diffuse it, and we we're just like people pleasing because we don't want to blow up.
Exactly.
A lot of chaos, right? 'Cause
Yes.
we have to make sure dad is okay.
Or we take on dad's identity and we're very aggressive in handling our conflicts in life because now we're mirroring the role model that we had at home in the masculine side. So this is kind of like, I want to make sure we broke this up so that we had some sort of idea. So,
okay. So now that's interesting. So let me ask you, so can either sex have a mother wound and a father wound or both? Or is it like, is a mother wound indicative to a male and is a father wound indicative to a female? Or can it be transposed?
I think it can be transposed, but let me go back to your first question. I think most of us have a mother wound and have a father wound.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we have multiple mother wounds and multiple father wounds. The question is, and I think the question that's going to give us the overarching, like, which is ruling here, the mother wound or the father wound. But I think, again, as a therapist, we've got the layers going on. So this is why therapy can take some time because we're going through a lot of layers, a lot of wounds and things. And in the way we've adjusted and our survival strategies that we've created around these wounds. So this is what part of the work that we're doing, taking these layers off. But I think the question we want to ask ourselves is to know which is ruling in our lives. Which parents' love did we crave the most?
Wow. That's a very interesting statement. Now let's delve deeper into that. So how do we connect what parents' love we wanted the most or that attention that we were attributing to the most? What does that do in terms of the father wound or the mother wound? How does that connect?
Because now that's organizing you to go. And because again, remember, most of our parents did not give us unconditional love.
Right.
Kind of like in the beginning, they can do that because you're a little cute
little baby.
But after that, it's like, it's over.
Once you start speaking, it's over.
There's a lot of conditions.
Yes.
But anyways, so that's going to start to organize our sense of self, our identity, and what we're going after, where we put our energy to, because most of us want to have a sense of belonging. We want to be accepted. So that will then dictate what to suppress and what to bring out because we want to be accepted by that parent.
So if we want to please daddy, we're just going to look to how daddy conducts himself and his mannerisms or whatever, and we're going to try to replay that and we're going to try to live up that so we can get daddy's approval.
If you look at your life, Shai, which parent do you feel like you might have been?
Daddy, of course. Absolutely. So I have a gaping dad. So that is so interesting that you say that, right? So, it's like, I'm thinking about it that you say that, which is why it's so interesting. So I'm going back in my mind and, kind of associating what you said, which is so true. I was always looking for daddy's approval because to me, he hung the moon. He could do no wrong. Right? And I think that in a way, how my brother showed up on my doorstep, I was more angry at my mom than I was at my dad, even though he was the offender.
And why do you think the anger was displaying to your mom? What do you think contributed to your anger towards your mother instead of your father?
And it's so interesting because he's the offender, right? And so I think at the time, she was the one that was doing all the action. He was just not present because he was in Florida. And she was the one handling everything. And I think we blame the person that we're closest to and we see every day because he was out of reach to me. And he also was my hero. And I didn't want to dispel that. And I think that I thought my mom was the villain in the story.
So you placed the anger on the parent who was actually present.
Yes.
Because they were tangible.
Yeah.
It was the only person that the anger can possibly go to.
Absolutely.
Being that your father was pretty much absent and out of the picture for you.
Yes. But, also, I never vocalized it that I was angry at my mom. I kept it hidden and I snuffed it and I was silent again on it because of course, I could not dare confront her and let her know that I was quote unquote angry at her, whether it was misdirected or not. But I still, until this day, I'm thinking about it and I've always thought that she made the wrong decision because when he showed up and his mom brought him, she accepted him. So I figured that she had that power and the control to not let that be the reality, right? She kind of let the trauma in a way. So she was the only one that I could associate with it.
So do you think somewhere inside of you, you would have hoped that your mother would have held your father accountable? Is that part of what the anger was
Absolutely.
about?
100%. And now that I'm looking back on it, I really, 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 really secretly prayed for them to divorce.
At that time.
Even now, because the way that they communicate, the way that they interact with each other, it's in a toxic way. It's not in a positive, communicative way. And it's just always chaos. And so I'm like, leave the person, just get out of it. When I was faced with that similar thing in my marriage, I thought like it was so easy, that it would have been so easy for me. Because looking back as to where I was as a child, I thought my mom should just leave my dad. But I didn't immediately leave my ex-husband when the baby showed up on the doorstep. So that goes to show that I didn't know what I thought I knew. I thought that if that ever happened to me, like what my dad did to my mom, I'll just leave the guy. She's weak. She's whatever it is. But it's never that simple.
Until we relive what our mother went through. And then all of a sudden, we have a little bit of a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's easy to place judgment on our parents when we're young. And even as adults, too. But until we walk through their shoes, we don't understand how difficult it is to leave someone who has betrayed us, or to break down a family that we have lived our whole life to put together, to bring forth to this world. We put all of our energy into this, and then all of a sudden, kapoof, it can be blown up. So yeah, but anyways, when you think back, what do you think you needed that you did not receive in that moment when this news came into your world that you have a brother?
I think I needed to be told something. Somebody should have said something to me, right? So it's like, that old TV series, I Love Lucy, and Desi used to say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Like, I felt like my parents had some splaining to do. When they didn't say anything,
silence.
It was like, it wasn't happening, but it was real for me. It was happening. I was having these feelings. I was having these effects of what was going on and everything. But to them, it was like nothing was happening. That was the most devastating thing for me, because that made me feel like I was crazy too.
Okay. So not having your parents sit down and talk to you about the situation, and all of a sudden now you have a brother, and here you are pretty much a teenager at that time, so close to being a teenager, and the silence is what prevails. So then what that the seed was for you then was what? Because there was a seed of judgment towards mom, and what else? What other seeds were like germinating in that moment for you?
It was mostly judgment, and kind of like, I looked at her as weak, right? But I wouldn't, like, I felt guilty.
So the judgment was that she was weak.
Yes.
There you go. That's the judgment.
Yes.
Okay.
That she was weak, and I was like, and then when I was in a similar position as her, and I didn't do what I thought I was. Of course, I'm a child. I know everything, right? And it's part of it is because nothing was explained to me, that whole, and I think having that over perfectionism and trying to, when we don't talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak, the child makes up whatever.
Any story.
So whatever version I made up in my head, that was the reality. And so if no one is explaining, correcting me and telling me, look, everything doesn't have to be perfect. A person doesn't have to be perfect. So of course I looked at my parents because they're judging me in a way. And so I'm looking at them like hypocrites, because you're not even practicing what you preach. So how can you tell me to follow it and you're not doing it? But then I also felt like a hypocrite when I couldn't follow through. So there was a lot of ruminating in my head and back and forth, that I thought I was just as a hypocrite as my parents, right? And putting that over pressure on myself to just be perfect.
But the truth is, you've learned a lot of lessons.
Yes. Yeah. Lessons that I think that a lot of communication, a lot of explanations from my parents would have kind of opened up a different world for me, made me look at something a different way. Because even going back to the mother wound or the father wound, I think one of the effects of it is that we kind of look to whomever I was dating. So my ex-husband, I dated my dad. And I think I said that, right, a bunch of times. And that's one of the things. It's like, I thought he was awesome, even though he had exhibited all this betrayal, all this, he had lied to me. So I
And
still,
to your mother.
and to my mom, right?
Mhm.
And I still thought he was awesome. He was the most amazing person. And he would work very hard, but he would never communicated, never spoke on emotions. Whenever he was angry, you would know he's angry because he's blowing up.
Mhm.
He can't have like a normal, regular conversation. And so that's how my ex was. I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't, we couldn't have these conversations and I thought that was the acceptable way that a relationship would go. So I felt like I was carrying the weight of everything in the relationship, so to speak.
So you mentioned earlier that the parents' love that you yearned for the most was your father. So then you repeated a cycle there. And the cycle was then you attracted a man who was just like your dad.
Ding, ding, ding. Right?
Yes, ding, ding, ding. So how do you break this cycle? How do you move beyond that? Now that you have all this awareness, what's next? How do you move beyond this now?
So in the future, right? So learning that I have these patterns, and this is because of this mother wound or father wound that I have, which apparently I have both.
We all have those.
We all have both, right?
Yeah.
So I have blaming my mom was part of my mother wound that I have, right? And part of, my dad's, learning that I have this wound that needs to be healed, right? I have been healing myself without having another partner to kind of like distract me or confuse me. Because if I'm dating someone else and not knowing the choices that I'm making and why I'm making the choices, I'm going to make the same mistakes again, right? And I'm going to date the same type of a guy, not communicative, not, gets angry, and I try to pacify it. I try to people please. I try to make it okay because that's what my mom did for my dad, So in a way, because I have those wounds and from what I read, like having a mother wound, the result of having a mother wound is it's like I'm babying my ex. I'm trying to nurture him or over nurture him, right? And when we spoke that he also has a mother wound, right? And he's looking for that nurture. So then us coming together, we create like that trauma bond. Right? So I realized that if I want to be in a healthy relationship, I can't be bonded or connected to someone that has not healed their trauma as well. It's going to bring me right back into that cycle.
Yeah.
So I need to have healed people, and I need to heal myself first and date someone that's healing.
Yeah.
Because if not, we're going to go right back into the same cycle.
And I think bringing it back to our topic of mother wounds and father wounds, I believe we all have something that we may be repeating on both the masculine or the feminine, depending, like I said, which was like the strongest yearning that we had. I think the first level of healing is recognizing that we did yearn and we still may be still acting that out today. And how am I today acting out, still looking for that mother love or that father attention or whatever that is? How am I still doing that today? And then learning how to give that to myself, right? In the area of self-care and self-love and self-validation, and seeking ways to heal that. Because it's not always, healing is not in a vacuum. It's in a relationship. It is in relationships that we are wounded and traumatized because of these are emotional wounds, emotional traumas. And it's also in relationship that we get our healing. So finding ways to understand what is my primary parent wound, then figuring out the judgment. This is why I want to make sure that you were clear where your judgment was.
Right. So tell me, how are you breaking the chains? How are you identifying your mother wound or your father wound or both? And jot that down in your diary and see how it's affecting your life and what you can do. Jianny, any final thoughts?
Sure. Yes. I want to give you a recap again of what we said earlier about mother wounds and father wounds. Again, these are the masculine and the feminine energies in us. So remind yourself or ask yourself, do I have any, issues in the area of attachment and emotional safety? Or do I have issues with self-esteem or identity? And what about your boundaries and enmeshment? If you feel like you have issues there, then we're looking at the mother wound. And then we're looking at the father wound. We're looking at issues of safety and trust, protection. We're looking at achievement and confidence and capacity. And we're looking at relationship to masculine energy. So if you feel like most of your issues are there in that area, making money financially, like having stronger capacity to grow, then we're probably looking at the father side. The net here is that the most bang for your buck that you're going to do or have is when you heal your mother and father wounds. Because these will be directly affecting your sense of identity, who you are and how you show up to this world and how you show up to yourself and how you show up to your partner or who you're attracting. So this is your gold mine. This is where you want to absolutely look at your mother wounds, father wounds, and release these things. And also finding a therapist.
Absolutely.
So for those who are interested in finding a therapist who works with these issues and inner child wounds, I am Jianny Adamo, and I am the founder of Fearless Love. And my website is fearlesslove.net.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you have identified a mother wound, a father wound, and you don't see how you can get yourself out of it to move forward and everything, therapy is one of the best ways to do it. And believe me, I'm speaking from experience because we just identified I have a mother wound and a gaping father wound, okay? So, and it's not that something is wrong with you. We just have to identify and we kind of have to create what we want, So until next time, join me if you want to suit up, if you want to boot up, stand up in truth, transformation, and break out of trauma. Tune in, get therapy, and you can find Jianny at fearlesslove.net. And thank you, and suit up and boot up. Thank you. Hey, chain breakers, it's Tisha. Before we close this episode, I want to spend some time going deeper into something that has been coming up over and over in my life, the mother wound and the father wound, and the way those wounds show up in everyday relationships we try to build as adults. Now, if you've been listening from the beginning, you know this is not just information for me. This is lived experience. This is the stuff that shaped my childhood, my marriage, my divorce, and even my Thanksgiving this year. What I'm about to say is not theory. It's what healing has actually looked like for me in real time. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So now we're going to talk the truth about wounds, how they show up in your choices. Now, when you grow up with a mother wound, when you grow up with a father wound, you don't become an adult magically free from the pain. You become an adult who learned how to survive it. Children don't blame their parents. They blame themselves. Some children don't say something is wrong with my caregivers. They say something is wrong with me. And on that belief becomes the lens through which we choose partners, friendship, careers, everything. For me, I learned to tolerate emotional neglect. I learned to normalize being silenced. I learned to shrink myself so I wouldn't shine too bright. I learned to accept being the strong one, the fixer, the one who holds it all together. And when you grow up with these wounds, you unconsciously choose people who confirm them. Not because you want to be hurt, but because familiar pain feels like safety. And let me just tell you what I realized this year. One of the deepest realizations I've had, and Jianny helped me earlier in this segment put language to this, is that I was loyal to an emotional system that were never loyal to me. And let me repeat that. I was loyal to an emotional system that were never loyal to me. I was loyal to the role I played in my family, the strong one, the overachiever, the caretaker, the one who didn't need anything, the one who didn't cry, the one who could handle everything. And then I married someone who was raised in a system where he had to survive abandonment, confusion, and instability. He had a mother wound and he had a father wound, like I did. He had generational patterns he never asked for, just like we never asked for. And the truth is, my wound recognized his wound. My wound said, I knew how to carry someone who can't carry themselves. His wound said, I know how to attach to someone who will over-function for me. We didn't choose each other from healing. We chose each other from survival. But survival love is not sustainable love. Boundaries are not a punishment. They are information. Now, a lot of us were raised to believe that boundaries are disrespectful. We were raised to believe don't make people feel uncomfortable, don't do too loud, don't ask for too much, don't hurt people's feelings, don't rock a boat, don't disturb a family dynamic. But here's the truth that I'm learning. Boundaries don't hurt people. Did you hear me? Boundaries don't hurt people. In fact, they reveal who can handle you healed. Now, this Thanksgiving was a little bit proof of that. And a pattern showed up again for me. A pattern of me being secondary, a pattern of me being last on the list, a pattern of me adjusting myself around someone else's choices. And for the first time in my life, I didn't try to fix it. I didn't cry quietly. I didn't pretend it didn't bother me. I didn't swallow my feelings. I set a boundary. A quiet one, a clear one, a firm one. And when I removed myself from that old dynamic, everything changed. My ex came back differently. He approached me differently. He listened differently. But here is the important part. I didn't set the boundary to change him. Did you hear me? I didn't set the boundary to change him. I set the boundary to protect me. What does this mean? The boundaries are not set to change people. They are a protection. They are a fence. And that is the only time a boundary actually works. Healing is not about making other people perfect. A lot of us think that healing means getting closure, having the perfect conversation, receiving the apology, finally being understood. But that's not healing. That is a fantasy, guys. Healing is understanding that some people can't give you what you wanted when you were a child. Some people are growing at their own pace. Some people don't have that emotional language yet. Some people love you the best way they know how, even if it's imperfect. That's life. That's a reality. Some people are trying even if they cannot articulate it. And you know what? That's okay. Healing does not demand perfection from others. Healing demands responsibility from you. It demands responsibility from me. And what I saw this weekend was that my ex is trying. He's trying to heal. He may not understand everything. He may not get the psychology of my triggers. He may not fully grasp the wound underneath, but he came with a different energy. He came willing to talk. He came willing to listen. And he came willing to understand a little more than he did before. That's improvement. That's growth. That's not perfection. And I realized something very important. I don't need someone to be fully healed to treat me with respect. I just need them willing to grow. That's what you need to. Someone that's willing to grow. We do not need perfection. We don't need Mr. Perfect or Miss Perfect. We just need people that are willing to grow and willing to heal. And what I know about breaking a cycle, okay? Breaking generational cycles, they don't just happen in one moment. It happens in small decisions over and over again. It happens when you choose peace over panic. It happens when you choose clarity over chaos. It happens when you choose boundaries over begging. It happens when you choose self-respect over self-sacrifice. And this Thanksgiving, I broke a cycle. I broke a chain. For the first time, I did not play the role my mom has been playing for her entire life with my dad. I didn't accept scraps. I did not over-accommodate. I did not silence my feelings. I didn't make excuses for behavior that hurt me. I chose to shine. I chose me. And choosing myself, it didn't ruin anything. It didn't cause chaos. It didn't destroy the relationship. It didn't push anybody away. It actually created space for both of us to grow. That is healing. So let me tell you, if you're listening and you know this wound, if you've ever felt invisible in your family, if you've ever felt too responsible, too young, if you've ever been the fixer, the peacemaker, the strong one, if you ever carried pain that wasn't yours, if you've ever chosen partners from your wounds, then hear me very, very clearly. You're not broken. You were trained. Let me repeat this. You are not broken. You were trained, and you can be retrained. Healing is not about undoing the past. It's about rewriting the patterns for your future. In episode 3, I spoke about broken and spoiled milk, and I talked about how it can be repurposed to make cheese. So you can make cheese out of being broken. You deserve boundaries. You deserve safety. You deserve peaceful relationships. You deserve consistent love. You deserve to be chosen without conditions. You deserve the version of you that you are becoming. And that's what Suit and Boot is about. It's about standing up in truth, transformation, and breaking out of trauma. You're not alone in this journey. I'm walking it too, in real time, just like you. We are here together to hold each other's hands, to guide each other through. So before I close today, I want to thank you for listening to this add-on onto episode 4. Thank you for holding space with me, and thank you for rising with me. We are chain breakers together. Now, Suit and Boot is going to come out on Sundays, so stay tuned for next Sunday's episode. This one spoke to you, it spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with someone that needs to grow. Share it with someone that thinks that growing means perfection. It doesn't. So till next time, chain breakers, let's keep rising. Again, my name is 𝙁𝙤𝙬𝙧, and let's stand up in truth, transformation, and break out of trauma.